Hello, welcome to Cerulean Arts Gallery. Tonight we're speaking with Laura Eyring in conjunction with her Cerulean Arts Collective Exhibition, which is on view now through July the 27th. Hello, Laura.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for being here tonight.
Great. It's a pleasure.
Please tell us about the new show.
Well, this is, I guess, my fifth or sixth year at Cerulean Arts, something like that. Could be
Yes.
longer. For the past several years, I've stuck to landscape painting, which is what I just really drives me. And I started this technique about 6 or 7 years ago. I was just recovering from cancer, had a rough year of treatment, and when I was given the green light to heal and live my life to the fullest, in full remission, I said, I really want to get back to painting. And I wanted to kind of rethink the way I approached oil paint. Um, because I didn't really have a set style. I was kind of all over the place in terms of subjects. It was still life and figure and landscape, um, and every painting I did looked completely different. Um, and I wanted to kind of come up with a unified theme and approach. And so I really started looking at a lot of different artists, and I kept coming back to Impressionism and Post Impressionism, and with a real focus on color and palette. So I got rid of all my earth tones and I just work with red, yellow, blue. Sometimes I'll add a purple or a green. And then I spend an incredible amount of time mixing. And I stay with very saturated color. And then I also, the way I apply paint, I tone my canvas. And if I want kind of a mellower, softer feeling, I'll tone the canvas in a color similar to what the top painting is going to be. And if I want something brighter and with more of a pop, I'll use a complementary color. So, like in this piece, which is called Oak Alley, the underpainting is mostly blues and teals. You can kind of see it popping through there. Um, and because I knew that I wanted the painting to be mostly in the green, yellow, blue range. And so I wanted to kind of keep that tone and not you work so much with the oranges in this one. Orange and reds are not real prominent at all in this painting, giving it kind of a softer feel. Um, and so when I start my canvas, I tone with an acrylic, several different colors of the blue in that one, and then let that dry. And then when I go in, I do a lot of preliminary drawings. I draw even on, for the larger ones, I draw on graph paper to plan it out. Um, I draw on location and have detailed drawings, and then work from that and work from reference photos. And so when I'm applying the paint, everything is pre-mixed, meaning I'm mixing everything ahead of time. So I may have like 50 to 100 colors on my palette. And so when I go in with the paint, I think of applying it like putting down a mosaic. So each paint stroke is one gem of color, and there's no overlapping and there's no blending. And this gives me a more immediate feel. And in this one, you can see the underpainting is also kind of a bluish color, which is sort of like the grout of to use the mosaic analogy. Um, and that made these orange or pinker tones look a little more vibrant. But I like working this way because my work used to get very tight and self-conscious, and I would just not have a good idea where the painting was going when I started and kind of wing it, be mixing colors along the way. And it always felt like a struggle. And I wanted my work to really flow, to be looser, more spontaneous, and just kind of maybe spontaneous is the wrong word because there is a lot of planning, but I didn't want it to be tight. I wanted it to be more energetic. So when I paint, the actual painting part goes very quickly. Even these large ones, I probably don't spend more than 3 or 4 days on them, because there's so much planning in advance and because all my paint is mixed. And I have a good idea of where it's going before I even pick up the brush. Um, So yeah, so this is one of my favorite ones. This is cherry pie diptych. And I live in the Mount Airy section of Philadelphia. We are lucky to have so many trees. And so in the springtime, when all these cherry and flowering trees bloom, it just is this explosion of color. And you just look up and there's, pink and peach colors and whites and against the blue sky. And it's really stunning. And so I did a series of the spring blooming flowering trees. And this one is a 30 by 30 each panel. And and yeah, that's one of the ones I was really happy with how it turned out. And then there's kind of the same one on the left there is a weeping cherry from the same series. So those were just from this past spring. And then let's see over here. Yes, this is water lilies, mostly water paintings. I go to a couple arboretums. Well, Longwood Gardens has an amazing water lily pond, and also Mount Cuba Arboretum down near Delaware also has wonderful water lilies, and they're just really fun to paint. They just there's so many fun shapes to see inside the circle, and the way the water kind of hits them, and it can be a little intimidating painting water, but I just wanted to jump in, and because I'm not trying to make things look realistic, I can really play around with the color and just think of it in terms of value, in terms of where's my darkest dark, my lightest light, and where's my the most color. And this one's actually from Maine. On the bottom there, it's water grasses with lilies, and that was at the Botanical Gardens near Booth Bay Harbor. And they have a lovely, lovely garden, public garden there as well.
So Laura, do you feel you're channeling Monet when you're painting
Yeah,
waterlilies?
I mean, it's funny because I rewrote my artist statement a while back, and one of my first memories is when I was about 2 years old. My dad was carrying me, and we lived in Chicago. So this would have been like circa 1966. And it was a Monet show. And I was staring at a Monet water lily and painting, I mean, which was just enormous. And it was even bigger because I was so little. And just being drawn into the color and just, not wanting to leave that painting. And I always had that memory. And I was asking my older sister because both my parents just passed away this year. And so we were talking a lot about memories we had. And you know how when you're that little, you don't know if it's really a memory or if it's something that you just have heard and you felt. And, you're like, is that really real? And my sister, who would have been 5 at the time, said, yeah, I remember that, really well. I remember Dad taking us there. And so thanks to my parents who dragged us to museums from a really young age, because nothing gets me happier than seeing a lot of color. And he
Mhm.
is definitely one of my heroes when I think of artists. So let's see. Oh, this is my big triptych, um, sapling quintet. And then to the left of it, the little painting on the left is called Big Blue Tree. Um, and it was kind of a joke because when I started moving away from realism into more expressionism about 6 or 7 years ago, my dad was still alive at the time, and he was like, why is the tree blue? I didn't pay for you to go to art school to paint blue trees. And then, I said, Dad, 150 years ago, people, left realism with the development of photography. So
Yeah.
I decided to just, go for the blue, and they called that painting Big Blue Tree.
Hmm.
And this was I do a lot of painting from the Wissahickon because I'm near, not too far from Valley Green Inn and that area, which is just a lovely spot. And then this big one, which is the sapling quintet triptych. This is the largest I've worked. These each Canvas is, let me see, 30 by 48. So it's 48 by 90 total. And this was one, if you can see, we were talking about like underpainting. I really did more complex color with the underpainting where it kind of starts in the bottom with the purples and then goes into the pinks and then the kind of orangey and then the yellows and greens kind of up top. So you can see everywhere where there's kind of the grout is what the underpainting is. And kind of varying the color that much when toning the canvas, I think it gave it a lot more life to it because sometimes I would just go in with kind of like all similar pinks and oranges, whereas this has a real range of color just underneath. And so when I went in with the paint, um, it felt like things went like it already had more complexity to it than when I normally started painting, and that made it more fun. Um, yeah, so this was actually a picture taken from the Roxborough Reservoir. They had kind of these, they were kind of scraggly looking trees and just had fun. Kind of, they're almost like dancing. They're kind of, they felt like figures to me, just kind of moving. And I try and get a lot of movement in my work with keeping things um I don't know, just kind of thinking of the wind when I'm painting or the way leaves rustle. And so yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. And again, because even though the work's large, it went down very quickly. And again, this was a lot of mixing paint. I kind of mix in, foreground, midground, and then background. Yeah, it's just fun to work big, but it's hard to find the space sometimes. So this one is 30 by 30, and I wanted, it was from the fall, and I wanted to just have fun with drawing leaves. I would just walk around and pick up leaves and, just have enjoy the different shapes and patterns, and then how that pattern kind of plays in the water next to the leaves. So again, I'm kind of moving away from realism and just putting color down that I think looks good with the near the warm tones of the leaves and the cool water. I'll probably do some more of these because I love just picking things up when I'm hiking and walking and doing more kind of more like an illustration. Let's see. Oh, this is Andorra Meadow Triptych. This is painted on wood, the one on the left. And my son works for Friends of the Wissahickon during the summer and fall. And so he knows the park really well. And we took a hike together after Thanksgiving, and we hiked up to Andorra Meadow. I took a lot of liberties here with color, and that back layer there kind of looks like mountains, but it's actually trees in the background. But I made them kind of very cool. So they kind of head back, give it a little more depth than it had. And then I added a suggestion of the birds. There were a lot of crows that day. And again, you can kind of see the pinkish color popping underneath. Um, yeah, I wanted this whole thing to look pretty warm, to have a warm feel. So my underpainting was warm pinks and oranges. And then there's a lot of really strong oranges and reds and yellows in the field in the foreground.
So, Laura, how do you decide when a piece will be a multi-panel piece like this rather than just like one large canvas?
So I can only fit a 40 by 40 inch painting in my car. So that's my limiting
That's
factor.
your limit.
So transporting, you don't always want to hire a van.
Right.
So when I think of a size for something, well, if it's a more complex composition, then I like to go larger. And if I think, well, I'd really like to do like, 40 by 60 or 40 by 90, then it's just easier and more manageable to kind of break it up. It's also, I think it's easier if I sell something for clients to hang multi-panel. It's not such a heavy piece. And because this one is on wood, it kind of wraps around rather than has a frame. But I find like just keeping sizes very varied really keeps me fresh. So yeah, you'll see how the painting just wraps around, and that makes it easier. Just I think sometimes things don't always need a frame, and it kind of gives it some more depth. But then you'll see the ones right to the right of that are these little 6 by 8 stretch canvas, and I buy those. They're pre-stretched. I buy boxes of 20 of them, and these were sketches I did in Cape May. Um, and so it's, just to go back and forth between really little sketches and then go, oh, I did that in small. I wonder how that would look in a really large piece. And do I need more reference photos before I could do that? Do I need, to have more vary the composition? Would that work large? But it kind of keeps you, fresh. If I'm thinking, oh, am I going to, this month, am I going to do a dozen smaller paintings, or am I going to work on a couple really large pieces? And so this was spring when the irises started blooming. This was my neighbor's iris. And again, I've seen the Van Gogh iris painting that's at the Getty Museum in LA, and it's beautiful. He did so many of the iris paintings, but yeah, they're a fun shape to work with because they have they're kind of going like this, and then petals are coming out. So it's a very three-dimensional object, and each flower looks so different. And again, I like to get movement. I do preliminary drawings of individual flowers, and then I'll kind of place them when I'm laying out the painting in the beginning.
So do you pre-draw on the canvas with charcoal or something?
No, I have pencil and pen drawings beforehand. And then after I tone my canvas with acrylic, I go in with like a mix of ultramarine, cadmium red, and a little bit of yellow, and make like a chocolate color. And then I sketch with the brush. I'm solvent free now, which is another kind of change since cancer. I never knew you could paint without solvents, but you can. Much, much healthier. So I just use a little bit of linseed oil and kind of thin down the paint. And otherwise it's drawn right on there with the brush. But again, I have more detailed reference drawings that I'm referring to where I work out on my drawing issues. This one is Mosaic Morning. This is a fall scene. This is one of the paintings I'm happiest with too. Really had fun with all the pieces of the puzzle, putting this together. And fall is such a beautiful time to be doing landscape painting. And, for years I avoided fall landscapes because I thought, oh, they're going to look corny, or, it's like covered bridges and barns. You really want to draw them or paint them, but it's hard to not make them look, kind of, what's the word? Like for me, I was always afraid they'd look a little sappy if I did it. And then I just, when I stopped trying to go for a very realistic color, I had a lot more fun with it. So now I could do fall, 9 months of the year, just the warmer tones. And then you can see with some of these, I just kind of suggest the shape of the leaves, but they're not super detailed. but I'll kind of look and say, okay, maple leaves are kind of this shape, and this is what I'm seeing when I look at a tree. I'm just seeing parts of the leaves.
So, Laura, on July 19th, for the first time, you're going to do a workshop in conjunction with your show.
Yeah, yeah. I'm excited about that. It should be fun. I've never taught before. So I'm going to start it with a disclaimer saying, I think I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm winging it half the time, and I can show people what I do, that, the approach I like to take. I'll have several prepared panels ready to go, some in warm colors, pinks and oranges, and then some in the cooler purples and blues and greens. And I'm going to have a bunch of reference photos of landscapes, mostly trees. And then I'll do a mixing demo and just show people how I start things, and um, see if it's part of these techniques click with anybody watching. Then should be interesting to see. But I think, like a lot of artists, we kind of look at what other people are doing and just see if that's something I can incorporate into my work, and just fun to share ideas that way, and see what people take, and what they decide to leave. But yeah, I think it'll be fun.
Yeah. Well, it's a beautiful show, Laura. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I look forward to the reception, and to seeing people at the gallery.
Yeah, the reception's tomorrow from
Yep.
2 to
Yep.
5, so it should be fun. The show itself is up through July 27th, so we hope people come down and see it. And everything's also available on the website, including Laura's workshop, ceruleanarts.com. Well, thanks so much for being here, Laura, and have a great night.
Thanks. You too. Okay. See you. Bye.
Bye.